Hey, y'all. I'm going to say happy Sunday again because I just made a video and said happy Sunday, but being as though it seems like it's stuck in YouTube's um, checking it for ad sustainability cycle, I don't know if that will be out. This is the same video that I recorded on Friday for y'all, the one that I'm waiting, not this one, but the one that I made right before this one that I'm waiting to upload. But I recorded something on Friday, and I think because I played a clip, YouTube, it was taking forever. And finally, it just was like stuck. So I remade the video right before I made this one. And then I'm like, do they have AI checking the software? Isn't it picking up that because I have on the same shirt that I had on Friday because I liked it. So I put it back on today to make these two videos. And I'm like, is it picking up that I'm wearing the same shirt? I don't know. And I'm just a little bit frustrated. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this video and hopefully the same thing doesn't happen. But let's get into some topics. First of all, Miss Jackson, Janet Jackson. I don't know your middle name, Janet. I don't know your middle name, or else I will call you by it, Jackson. I'm sure y'all have heard, but let's get into it. This is according to the Jasmine brand. Janet Jackson says she heard Kamala Harris isn't Black. Janet Jackson is beginning to make headlines for comments she made about VP Kamala Harris. During an interview with The Guardian, she was asked about Harris possibly becoming the first Black woman president. She responded, well, you know what they supposedly said? She's not Black. That's what I heard, that she's Indian. Her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that they discovered her father was white. As we know, previously, Trump questioned VP Harris' identity in July during an interview. I read a comment. Somebody said, I don't care if she's half peanut butter and half jelly, as long as her policies, yada, yada, yada. That's what we should be talking about, not Janet. You know what? I want to express to y'all how I feel about Janet's stupid statement, but I am going to allow someone else to speak for me. This person, I love watching his stuff. I need him to speak for me because I'm getting irritated.
Is or not know anything about her background is very telling. You are about to be 60 years old, sis, and you're telling me you do not know who is running for the highest office in the land. But as far as
I just want you to y'all.
Now, Miss Jackson, I was
Go.
getting ready to get real nasty on your ass, but instead, I decided to delete and retract the tweet because you know what? I was coming from a place of anger, not understanding. Because I do understand that you just lost your brother and you're possibly still grieving. But I'm just let you know right now, you are too grown to be going off of what the internet or what you done heard. You need to start doing research. And for you not to understand or know who Vice President Kamala Harris is or not know anything about her background is very telling. You are about to be 60 years old, sis, and you're telling me you do not know who is running for the highest office in the land. But as far as Kamala Harris' blackness go, I want you to look at your biracial children and you tell me if they're Black. Did you know that two things can exist at the same time? You can be Black and brown simultaneously? Now, everybody want to blame somebody else or blame you for living in a bubble, but baby, the only person I can blame is you. Again, you are too grown to not know this information. Please, Janet, no more running with rumors. Remember, you said you didn't like rumors either. Remember when they said you had a secret baby that you hid away from the world? Wasn't that hurtful? It's just as hurtful as spreading rumors about Kamala Harris's blackness and erasing it. Kamala Harris's father is a whole Black Jamaican man. Now, Miss Jackson.
I said thank you to Raw to Real. You eloquently put that because I agree. And you heard it, but you didn't think to Google. She's talked about this so many times. Like, so to sit up there with your big platform, you, Janet Jackson, I heard that they discovered her father was white. Girl, what? Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Moving, because I just can't. Moving on. Let's talk about Eve. Now, remember a couple videos back, we talked about how Eve said that, after her first album went big or song, she got a call from Jay-Z saying basically, I'm paraphrasing, but don't get used to this. Women in the industry don't normally go far, right? So we have an update according to the Jasmine brand. Eve says she got a call after sharing Jay-Z's old remarks about her debut album and the limited success of female rappers. Looks like Eve is still clearing up wrong interpretations of a discussion she had with Jay-Z back in the day. The rapper recently hinted that she was contacted by either the billionaire or someone from his team over the matter, as the public has continued to react to advice he once gave her about not expecting to excel as a female rapper. As we previously covered, an excerpt from Eve's recently released memoir, Who's That Girl, has been widely discussed on social media, particularly the part about Sean Jay-Z Carter attempting to quell expectations of her debut album sales. Though Eve has since clarified that the Roc Nation founder didn't mean anything negative by his remarks, it seems backlash over the topic had already made its way to Jay-Z's camp. During a recent interview with Ebro, the gangsta-loving artist addressed media headlines that suggest Jay-Z was attempting to discourage her through the conversation, stating, "If you read the chapter, it is so not like that, and I didn't think in that moment that that man was trying to discourage me." After Ebro chimed in, stating that it seemed to him as if Jay-Z was simply trying to make her aware of what the challenges were at that time, Eve vehemently agreed and added, "For me, I took it as, okay, I hear you, but also let me see." Ebro went on to suggest that he was confused after seeing the headlines because they seemed to be painting a different story from what was actually in the book, prompting Eve to respond, "Yeah, I got a phone call." The Grammy Award winner furthered that she was happy Ebro brought up the topic and gave her an opportunity to clarify things once more, as she believes her words were purposefully misconstrued for the clickbait, adding, "Jay has always been the biggest supporter of who he supports. It was nothing like that." I thought she was gonna say who called her. Who y'all think called? The camp? Jay himself? You think Beyonce called her and said, "Look at here. Don't you be talking about my man in the public, because I will do a whole album about you." Okay. Who y'all think called? Somebody in the camp saying, "Clean it up. You better clean it up." I just thought that was interesting. Like, oh, okay. We read the article a couple of days earlier, I felt like the same thing. It still doesn't take away from the fact that you feel like, "Dad, can I have my moment?" Or, "Why do you have to say this?" But I also get what she's saying, like where he was coming from at the time and how she took it, even though it was hurtful. That's just how the industry was during that time. But I still thought that was funny, her saying, "I got a call." She also, which I want to get into real quick, she also talked about um, doing the movie Barbershop. And I thought this was so interesting. Please let me find it. See, I knew I should have kept it up here. But basically, she was saying that when when Nicki Minaj was coming on to do the Barbershop movie, that she started seeing a therapist because she didn't want her insecurities to be put off on Nicki. So I'm taking that to mean, like, another rapper coming in to do the movie when Eve was the woman on there. And she's like, "You know what? Let me check myself right now." I am so trying to find this. I thought it was literally right here, but I thought that was very self-aware. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Eve says she went to therapist during Barber Shop movie. Why it's not coming up? It was definitely, I'm pretty sure, on here it is. Got it, y'all. Ooh-doo-doo. She said, Eve opens up about going to therapy for her own insecurities after finding out Nicki Minaj would be joining Barbershop. "I've lived through what happens when women project their own insecurities onto other women. It happened at the start of my career. and it continued in waves as my fame grew. I wasn't going to be that woman to someone else, but in order to do that, I had to physically and mentally prepare myself. Nicki and I were actually fine on set. We got along well and shot our scenes together with no problems. It was nothing like what I had expected, but again, I'm thankful that I prepared myself for it. I'd see her writing songs on her bus in between takes, hurrying off set to go hit some new show dates over the weekend, and then come right back on set for these 12 to 16-hour shoots, all while trying to hold together her personal life and her relationship. It was at that moment that I didn't envy her, and I kind of wanted to give her a hug. I thought I was going to resent her, and really all I felt was compassion. I remembered being that person, the girl who felt like she had to do it all, the girl who was pressured to do it all because all eyes were on her. Instead of feeling insecure around Nicki, I started to sympathize with her. I thought that was big of her, to say that. And again, you have to be a self-aware person to recognize that. So shout out to Eve for being self-aware enough to be like, dang, you know what? Before Nicki even got on set, like, I know what it's like basically being pitted against another woman. My insecurities that I have let me go to therapy to work this out before everything being fine on set. And then her really seeing Nicki, for what was happening at the time. You know what I mean? And so I shout out to her. I appreciate her for being honest about it. I really, really do. I wonder did Nicki respond, or is Nicki going to respond? I wonder, because I know she's responding about her, people are saying her coming for Jay-Z with the whole Super Bowl thing. And then I was going to cover that story later, but her getting into title and not being paid and all of that stuff. So again, shout out to Eve and good on her for recognizing and not projecting her insecurities onto this other woman that seemingly in the same field, rap, now acting, and all of that. Good on her. Last thing I want to talk to y'all about, Miss Mary Cosby. So, people talk about Mary and her money and her using the money from the church to fund her lifestyle, which to me, after seeing her church and the amount of congregants versus her lifestyle, I do not believe that Mary's church is funding her lifestyle. Not to the extent that she does it. Now, for me personally, I'm just speaking about me personally, a lot of pastors I knew of had outside jobs, had jobs outside of the church. So they were either authors, they worked. I knew one pastor that just retired, worked an everyday 9 to 5, and then had another job on top of that. So he could afford his nice house, his car, his this. He didn't get it from the church. He got it from his other job. So the pastors that I knew worked other jobs outside of the church. That may not be the case for all. We do know that some are living off the church, scheming off the church. And I will say this, there are some churches that have a board. So it's like the White House. The pastor don't make the decisions like the president doesn't. The president has branches and people in place that they have to, House of Representatives, all of that. And so there are churches that have boards, and the board puts a salary in place for the pastor and a salary in place for the people that work around the church, and that's their salary, and that is it. Again, we do know that's not the case for all churches, but I'm saying that to say I don't believe all churches are crooked. Again, we've all heard of a lot of them that are, but I do know churches that have boards in place, that the pastor ain't just making decisions, ain't just taking the money. They have accountability checks in place. So with Mary, who knows? I find it interesting that Mormonism is the backdrop of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And they're talking about Mary's church being a cult. You can believe that if you want, but let's not act like, again, Mormonism is not the backdrop to Salt Lake City, some of which these ladies are still involved in. Okay. According to the Salt Lake Tribune, Real Housewife Mary Cosby is suing the people who ran the finances of her church. Cosby and her husband and their Faith Temple Pentecostal Church have filed a lawsuit against the people operating the church's for-profit business. One of the stars of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Mary Cosby, along with her husband and their Pentecostal church, is suing two executives of their church's business arm, accusing them of embezzling millions of dollars from the company and the church for years. Side note, because her church is labeled as for profit, that means that she wouldn't get the tax breaks and stuff, right? Because don't a lot of churches put themselves as nonprofit so that way they can get out of paying certain taxes and all of that? Mary and Robert Cosby and their Faith Temple Pentecostal Church filed a lawsuit Wednesday in Third District Court in Salt Lake City against United Security Financial Inc., the for-profit business wholly owned by the church. Oh, and two of its officers, Annie L. Johnson and Sean Turner. The Cosbys and Faith Temple are seeking damages totaling nearly $6.3 million. In the complaint filed Wednesday, the Cosbys and Faith Temple also accused Johnson, USF's president, and Turner, the company's secretary, of intimidating USF employees, forging Robert Cosby's signature, and using church funds for personal use. Attempts to contact representatives for Johnson and Turner Wednesday were unsuccessful. The lawsuit identifies Robert Cosby as Faith Temple's bishop and president, and Mary Cosby as the church's vice president, first lady, and evangelist. In one part of the lawsuit, Johnson is accused of taking the title in her name of a church. Taking the title in her name of a church-owned radio station, and in 2017, starting to dismantle the station, demolishing the transmission tower, and canceling the station's FCC license. The complaint says Johnson in 2020 transferred the station's property, worth more than $4.3 million at the time, to her son, who sold it to a third party, with the proceeds going back to Johnson. So basically, the church owned a radio station, and they're saying in 2017, one of the people who worked for this financial company started dismantling the station, demolished the transmission tower, canceled the FCC license, transferred the property, which was worth more than $4.3 million, to her son. And then the lady's son turned around and sold it, with the money going back to her. Johnson is also accused in the complaint of commingling funds, using a Faith Temple account to fund a USF mortgage on a property in Indiana that Johnson's husband sold to his cousin. The mortgage for $173,000 was never repaid to Faith Temple, the complaint says, and the total payoff with interest amounted to $421,912.40. The lawsuit also accuses Johnson of abusing USF employees and Faith Temple representatives with intimidation, threats, verbal abuse, racial degradation, and physical abuse. According to the complaint, Johnson repeatedly told USF workers to cash the company's checks and give her the money, which she said would be given to Faith Temple, but was instead held by Johnson for personal use. The lawsuit claims at least $350,000 was taken that way, in what the complaint calls a form of money laundering. One accusation involves a loan Robert Cosby signed for $119,000 in August of 2005 to secure a property east of Ensign Peak, a loan that was believed to have been paid off through a refinancing in October 2006. An audit, the complaint said, found that Johnson continued to make payments from November 6 to November 2018 from the Cosby's personal checking account, which Johnson controlled. So the loan was supposed to be paid off within a year, and actually took, they're saying, 12 years, and it was being paid from the Cosby's personal checking account. The final check to pay off the loan, according to the complaint, was sent from a company Turner owned, which Johnson is the woman and Turner was the man that owned this company that did Mary's church's financials. So the final check to pay off the loan, according to the complaint, was sent from a company Turner owned to a USF account that was used for personal gain. The lawsuit says $126,611.10 was paid after the Cosbys believed the loan was paid off. The complaint says a second mortgage on the same property for $99,217 was made in October 2008 after Johnson forged Robert Cosby's signature. The lawsuit accuses Johnson of threatening the notary public into notarizing the fake signature. Johnson is further accused of paying $76,448.40 on the mortgage from the Cosby's personal funds, but the defendants later claimed there has not been a single payment made to this mortgage. Turner, the complaint says, provided a payoff amount of $137,475.35 with no explanation of how this was determined. The Cosbys didn't learn of the second mortgage until last December, the complaint says. Also in the complaint, Johnson is accused of funneling sacred tithes and offerings from Faith Temple's congregants to herself to pay her American Express bill and other expenses. The lawsuit claims a ledger was discovered in July that documented in Johnson's handwriting payments made to herself totaling $90,670.32. So again, Johnson and Turner are the people who this lawsuit is filed against. Mary and Robert Cosby filed the lawsuit. Mary, Robert, and the church filing a lawsuit against Johnson and Turner, the people who operated the church's for-profit business. Their company, again, was called the United Security Financial, USF. So it was Annie L. Johnson and Sean Turner. Wow, 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 wow. So we shall see. I'm going to keep up on this and see where it goes, because they're saying that. So Mary and Robert are saying that these two people, their company ran the finances and basically embezzled $6 million. We shall see where that goes. All right, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this story about Mary Cosby. I'm loving her on Salt Lake City. Let me know what y'all think about Eve. Who y'all think called Eve? Y'all think it was Jay-Z himself? Y'all think it was B? Maybe Blue Ivy called and said, you better stop talking about my daddy in the public like that. Okay, he was just trying to support you. We shall see. And let me know what y'all think about Eve admitting that when she found out that Nicki was coming on to do the movie Barbershop, she went to therapy because she didn't want to project her insecurities onto another woman. Y'all let me know what y'all think about Janet Jackson, child, and what she had to say about Kamala's daddy. She heard he was a white man. All right, y'all. Love y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all later. See ya.